Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Block Sauce, your web show that serves up the juiciest discussions in the world of Web3 gaming culture. I'm your host and re-NFT ambassador, Jinkirin, and today I've got an incredible guest lined up for you, so grab your controllers, crack open a Red Bull, and prepare to get your game on. Hey there, sauce enthusiasts. It's time to bring the heat with another electrifying episode of the Block Sauce. I'm thrilled to introduce our panel, guest. Technically, we don't have a panel today. We got Patrick with Moonlit Games with us. How are you doing today, Patrick?
Doing well. Doing great.
Looking good. I like the background. You got plenty of plants over there. Growing your own greenhouse?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a bit, in the winter, Berlin's a little dark. I try and liven it up with a little life inside, so.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. So, obviously, you guys are in the Web3 space. You're building a game. So, I want to talk a little bit about the studio first. How long have you guys been around?
So we are, I guess, nearly officially kicking off our first year anniversary. So fairly new, but it's still so early. I think there's a lot of work to be done. Most of us aren't, I guess, as you would see other Web3 gaming companies like natives that then started doing games our entire careers. Funny enough, I have the shortest career. I'm nearly at 15 years in free-to-play mobile games. So we have like extensive backgrounds in making games and really making hit games. So trying to transfer that into blockchain and really convert, people talk about millions. We're looking at the billions. Like we're just used to like different scales. So
you're aiming big then.
We gotta go big. Like
go big
it's
or
the
go
future.
Home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of brought you guys to Web3? Like what, obviously you guys have extensive game knowledge. You've been working on games for years. What's the appeal there?
So before I got into games, my background was investment finance. So knew about Bitcoin fairly early on, but as a store of value, you really have to have like a lot of people believing. And fast forward 15 years, like we do now, but back then it was just like whatever.
Yep.
And then if Ethereum came out and smart contract technology, even in its early days, showed a lot of promise, but I'm a game developer. I'm over here making games, and to like jump into that, especially in its infancy, was just a little crazy. So I always just kept an eye on it. And more as new standards were being created, the entire Ethereum ecosystem started being more built out and giving developers more tools. It just made more and more sense, especially with some of the systems that we're seeing in blockchain, that you can transfer and change really the experience that people can have. And that's what's like the most key thing. Like, hey, we're not like telling you, hey, come make money playing games, like, or hey, you get to own it and that's the benefit. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Man.
You want new experiences that you haven't had before but wish you did? Like, come on, let's go.
Nah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I'm one of those, ownership isn't a selling point. That's not really that's not what pulls me into a game, right? Like having the ability to buy, sell, and trade assets is nice. It's a bonus, but that isn't what makes a game. It's not what makes it good.
Exactly. I mean, so Diablo 4 was the last like really big hit game. I guarantee you, if you look at box sales compared to the previous Diablo, like infinitesimally smaller, right? Everyone's buying digital copies. you don't get to sell that copy on. Like, you've given up
Mhm.
ownership, right? So, like, if anything, gamers are actually going the other way where they're
Yep.
giving up ownership in some ways. And so to try and sell that back, just like you're really missing what gamers are after. And that's like really rich game experiences. And of course, they're willing to pay, but like it's got to be experience game first. Like all of the like tangible, like I'm a gamer, I want to play, not all of these tertiary, like very, like there might be some people's motivations, but it's like when you're looking at the 3.4 billion gamers in the world, like very few are out there doing it strictly just to make money.
Yep.
But
And
you know,
it's usually a regional thing I've noticed. I've said this probably even on other block sauce segments, but in a first world country, this play to earn system, I tested it out myself. There was a game that I grinded for a full month. I almost made enough to buy a cup of Starbucks coffee. Almost.
mhm, mhm.
Meanwhile, I have a 9 to 5 job that like 30 minutes there I can buy a cup of coffee, it's just
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So play to earn is very regional, I feel like, but
for sure. I mean,
but
definitely like in developing countries where
mhm,
that cup of coffee actually feeds my family for 3 days.
exactly.
Totally. Like, have at it. This is an opportunity that we're actually excited about, like a bit more freedom as far as how you can create, an economic incentive through games. It's just not for everybody.
And on the ownership side of things, what you were just talking about, I feel like I don't know if you've been following recent news or not. The Ubisoft situation is kind of nailing that point home. For those that aren't aware, if you do not log into your Ubisoft account for 6 months, you will receive an email that says you have 30 days before they will deactivate your account. And this morning, it was retweeted. The Ubisoft support confirmed that you will lose access to all of your Ubisoft games, even if they were purchased outside of the Ubisoft platform. So if you bought games on Steam or Epic, like me, for example, I got The Division on Epic, I would lose access to all of that because you're paying for a license through Ubisoft. And apparently these platforms have some sort of agreement that even if Ubisoft, deactivates your account, it's gone. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I wonder if this is some weird kind of tax finance trickery where they view this as stored value, and for them on their balance sheet to recoup some of that value, they have to have this and kind of call that stored value. And like I think that there's some like wild trickery going on here, but regardless, like what a terrible experience, what a terrible thing to
Yeah.
like really be like seen for.
Well,
um
it's actually because of GDPR, so we can blame the EU more than
really.
yeah, we can blame the EU. So with
Oh, the
GDPR,
storage of yeah,
exactly.
okay, that's of
So
course.
if they have a policy in place that if an account is inactive for a minimum of 6 months, it is required by law to deactivate it. But
Yeah,
that extends to 1 year. So they have up to a year. So technically, they could send that 30-day notice at 11 months instead of 6. So
yeah,
Ubisoft it feels like they're playing it safe. They don't want to risk any GDPR infractions. So they're going
yeah,
with the low end, but they do have wiggle room there, it feels like. But that's a whole different topic.
yeah.
This is supposed to be about Moonlit Games
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Rogue crap. I already forgot the name. Uh
Rogue Nation.
Rogue Nation. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, it's not on iOS, so I don't have it on my phone.
I know. Hey, look, I had to go buy an Android just to test this thing, but the ecosystem on Google, it's so much easier. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we have had this game live on the Google Play Store since May 5th. So like
Yep.
we're still working with Apple to get this live because we have NFT integration. So this just gives you like an
Yeah.
indicator of like the difficulties on one side versus the other.
100%. And if I remember correctly, I believe Apple's platform takes a larger cut too. So there's that.
They're both 30.
Oh, they're both 30. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Not
right.
not quite to the epic level yet, but I'm sure that this will change over the next couple years.
So
I know that Google's allowing. Well, so there was to get like I won't go into the a tangent, but
yeah.
you can look it up. Google Play in India had a ruling, so they're allowing second party payments. So,
Oh, that's
and
great.
yeah, yeah, that was earlier this year. So yeah, exactly. It's just like these little dominoes are falling. So
Slowly falling into place.
exactly.
So tell me a bit about Rogue Nations. I unfortunately this is kind of the first I'm hearing about it. I looked at it and it looks kind of like it's a top-down either twin stick shooter or ARPG.
Yeah, it's got ARPG controls, so it's
Oh,
a
okay.
roguelite ARPG, three-quarter view. So not quite top down, but a little like if
Isometric.
people have played for sure. So it's like if you would imagine like a slightly faster paced Brawl Stars. This is kind of the control scheme, and then you do a bit of dungeon crawling through different rooms. Right now, it's a what we call shoot and loot. It's one of the game modes. We have a number of game modes that will be coming out soon. Wink. TBD on which one's coming out when, but yeah, real excited. So you play as these characters. There's different weapons you can equip. There's a pet that has different passive abilities. You take that into a dungeon. There's kind of the rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock element, like fire,
Hmm.
is better against nature. Nature is better against water. Water is better against fire. Pokemon thing without the ultra complexity of Pokemon. But
No, that's fair. Um,
yeah, so you can run through with your weapons, and then each character has a special set of abilities. And yeah, that's kind of the rough kind of verbalization of the gameplay.
so I've played Brawl Stars in the past. I know they're PvP, but you mentioned dungeons. So is this PvP, PvE, or both?
It is single player, co-op, and PvP. So kind of encompassing quite a number of interesting dynamics. We think that the social layer aspect is very interesting, especially in PvP and co-op. And single player is a place in which, for us, we have a lot of roots in casual and mid-core, and
Hmm.
really like just having a single player option. One is pretty easy. It's like the easiest of the three. And it also offers a place for those that might not be like really into the whole social gameplay, but still want to have a really good experience. And so as we see it from that kind of spectrum of interacting with others and really enjoying that, like PvP is at one end, solos at the other, and we're kind of like really ticking a couple of the motivations from players.
That's actually great. I've been an advocate for more single player games in the space. I'm not anti live service or anything, and I love playing with friends. But good example is like recently I started playing like Death Road to Canada. Right, it's just a little small indie game that I bought on the Switch because it was on sale, and it's just fun going through the story, making your own decisions, and not really having to stress about like teamwork or group play or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's that definitely that more chill, vibey type of experience, and I love it. But we haven't really seen Web3 utilize single player too much at all, really.
I mean, I'd be willing to say we haven't seen Web3 utilize much.
We haven't seen Web3 utilize Web3 yet.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like
Oh
we've
man.
seen a couple coins, like it's I think it's still early in the space, and the way that we see it is, again, like getting back to just where is the experience that we can start to pull in blockchain, make players understand and feel it rather than tell them, hey, this is blockchain, isn't it so cool, you get to own this thing. We really wanted to pull in it into like really core systems.
Hmm.
And just to give you like a quick example, like most games historically have gone off a linear progression, right? Everyone gets to level 10 or 20. I understand like level cap's 50. Here's what my HP could be. There's a couple variants. You're playing Pokemon, everybody has Mewtwo. This is supposed to be like the rarest of the rare thing. I have like 18 Mewtwo's, and
Yep.
it's like, so how do we start pulling that in and creating the a single Mewtwo, and not even that, but like allow you to create your own character to become something special.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this example quite often because like it resonates or seems to. But Excalibur the sword, very famous, like King Arthur sword in the stone, Lady of the Lake. When it came from the blacksmith, it was not Excalibur,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was a very nice sword, but this sword got a great start. It went to King Arthur. He took it into battle after battle, right? Knights of the Round Table might have borrowed it, done some side missions, right? And like I just said, Lady of the Lake, Sword in the Stone, over its history, it becomes this mythical sword that this
Mm-hmm.
great king, King Arthur, wielded, right? So we can create these types of feelings and interactions inside of games with blockchain, right? And this is one of our core systems. We call it DNA, deeds and achievements, but it's core to what a character, item, pet, anything in the game can become. And,
Oh.
of course, we're not taking out the linear part. That's there. You can understand that everybody gets it. It's nice to have that micro progression, but there's that added layer of the emergent progression that every action you do is important. Because remember, King Arthur didn't go, powering up Excalibur on some wolves and on the hillside. He was out there battling. And so
Mm-hmm.
now we can create spaces where, you got to put a little skin in the game. And Web3 can do this from a very transparent way. Warning, if you break your sword, it's broken. Or we could go to an extreme example. Warning, if your character dies, like we're burning it, like it's gone. If we
Hardcore.
want, yeah. But high risk, high reward. If you want
True.
to become that legendary character, which we can also, create a lot of visibility inside the game, inside the community. So really, like everything I'm explaining is really tip of the iceberg. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
really core systems that you can leverage blockchain, and a lot of people are unfortunately either just starting to come around to it or not quite there. They're still talking about tokenomics.
Yeah, I'm definitely gamer centric. I came into Web3, because of games specifically. I dabbled in crypto in the past. To me it's like stocks, right? It's risk
Mhm.
reward. It's not my thing. I've tried stocks, I've tried crypto. It is what it is. But I love gaming 100%. And I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen anybody kind of look at like Activision or Disney in this case. For those that may not be aware, Skylanders and Disney Infinity. Think about how they set up their physical collectibles where you can experience the entire game, like the core piece of the game, the main story and the whole campaign and everything with just whatever you initially buy, right? But by buying additional assets, you expand your experience. You get more in the game that you get to go to, more areas, more characters, more items. And we haven't even seen anybody do that yet. And that seems like a perfect use case to me. I'm just
Oh
saying.
yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
I've got a box of
I mean,
Skylanders in storage. I'm just saying.
even just from a social layer standpoint, right? If you're looking for types of clans or types of clan members,
Mm-hmm.
very easy to filter that out. Now, take those clans for example and have that on a larger map where you might have nations that are roguish, and you can have actually real-time battles over territory that are expanding, contracting, and become this kind of living in-game, like the word slipping my mind, but almost mechanism where people are working together, expanding their power, getting taken away. Like I think there's just like a lot of interactions where with the transparency and the way in which you can set this up as exactly as you said, like with Skylanders as a asset, bringing that into a
Mm-hmm.
digital space and just like affecting the world inside this game. Like for us, like the emergent aspect is just like really, really powerful. Very exciting to leverage that and just see where players can take it, because you can create that foundation and really create systems that players can engage with, user-generated content on Rails. Like, we're not trying to, create these massive systems.
I can't shake
but
my
like,
head enough at UGC.
yeah. And
Love it.
at the end of the day, like, let the players create, start to do crazy stuff. I mean, just look at EVE Online, right? 20 plus
Oh,
years, and there's still like people are. It's just emergent, like the end. And we're excited for this aspect.
that is great. So real quick, are you going to be able to share some gameplay with us today?
For sure, I can play some live stuff real quick. Let me see if I can set it up properly. Although I will say that this is the newest build, so if it crashes,
Look, everybody, if you're watching this right now, these games are in early development. They're not finished final products, so there could be problems. All right, expectations.
All right. Oh, I got sound as well. Let's see, share. Oh my god, this is so good. It's working.
Yeah,
Wait a
let me
second.
just pull it up in
But
here.
I should move that out of the way. All right, so
One
this
sec.
is like,
I got to pull the game up in here for us so we can actually see it. Assuming it wants to work with me today. What is going on? Hello. There we go.
awesome. So people can see it. I can talk to it.
Yep. It
All
is
right.
up and live. Okay, so we got a menu here. I see shoot and loot.
Oh yeah. All right, perfect. So I mean, as you can see, we're at V0.29. Getting there. Here's our character, Ice Cold. I call him the fridge. He's
It
my
looks like a
personal
fridge.
favorite. Yeah, he's literally a humanoid fridge. The world is a bit wacky. There's some cool stuff going on. But we have 3 characters. Stare is brand new. But I also like to.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I saw Stare and I immediately thought of Gunther from Adventure Time, and then I saw Stash and I immediately thought of Crypto Stash. So
Crypto oh no. Everyone keeps saying that. They're like, you did it because of Crypto Stash. And we're like, yeah, like, man, I guess like, accidentally, maybe it was subconscious.
coincidence.
Yeah. Here's kind of the elements that give the passive abilities. We have hornies, which have horns on their head. They give you bonus attack, and then chonkies, which are more defensive. They give you a shield. I personally like the shield. Yeah, so we have shoot and loot. We have a couple other game modes coming: raids, daily challenge, caravan.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got to stop you real quick because you mentioned raids. I'm a big World of Warcraft person. I love raiding. What is the plan for raids?
So raids will be the first. Okay, so there's a difference between like, final version of raids and early version of raids.
Of course.
Regardless, for us, this is the area where you can go in with other players. And the idea is that you won't have to necessarily, pull together a team and then go in, that we can do some matchmaking. So we're probably going to have some early versions and then have a final version when we release PvP early versions. So we're kind of doing the baby steps towards, our back-end architecture, making sure that it works. So we're just, everything that we do is like walk before you run. This is why we put our first playable, which is usually an internal demo, onto Google Play, because we feel like we can get players to come in, give us feedback, and iterate, constantly, while also validating, certain KPIs. Sorry to get super businessy here, but we need to know, like, verbal, feedback is great, but the best feedback, like, we can see it in the data. And yeah, so I have my loadout set up here. I got my ice cold. Oh, I just realized I'm gonna use ice. I should have used Stash because I know he has 0 bugs. Oh, because you see the outlines of the abilities there. I'll show you another bug here.
Oh, okay.
So the outline of the lines is not supposed to be there, obviously. Oh, whoops. So, oh, I also picked the slowest. He's the tank. So,
Um,
yeah,
so there will be kind of archetypes in here like tank, support,
big
damage.
time. And
Awesome.
yeah, so again, it comes back to that emergence. And what we're expecting out of players is to really, really play with it. So we have a system in which we call them personalities. So Fridge is essentially, oh boy, that is super choppy now that I'm looking up. Like, um, but so Fridge would be a personality, and he has these three abilities. Then there will be body types that kind of matched with that personality can give you different essentially archetype building towards characters, right? So like if I have a
Ah.
kind of larger body type, there's more HP. If I have like we have a
Mhm.
runner that has long legs, he's much faster. And so really we're just giving kind of the power to the players to like really test this out and make crazy ass combinations. Of course, we think we already know what the optimal combinations are, so we're trying to balance off of that. But we
Mhm.
full well know people are going to be doing some like wacky stuff that's just going to work. And we're like, I'm excited to see it. Our lead designer's like, oh, no, this is terrible.
Oh, I don't want to have to rebalance everything.
Yeah, exactly,
But
exactly.
that's part of
So
the fun though. Sometimes I just want to feel like a god. I want to break the game because that makes it
I-
even more enjoyable.
exactly. And then you feel clever, especially if it's like something that wasn't supposed to happen. Like I make Fridge, who should work really well with the more tank like body types, with like an assassin type like body type.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it's really funny to have these interactions where you go into PvP and people are like, what the F? Like, what?
That would
But
probably be me. I'm the guy that's always trying to find the builds. Like sometimes if I'm getting sweaty, yeah, I'll copy other people and try to find like the quote unquote best build that everybody's using, follow the meta, whatever. But
exactly, meta
but
on meta.
other times though, I don't know. I want to goof around, have fun, and see if I can break it and make something else work just as good as the meta, right? Almost like an
Yeah.
anti-meta.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love this aspect. Like, okay, what kind of wild combinations can I do that, yeah, like people will look at and just be like, "Oh, the hats off! Like you maniac! Like you pulled it off! Like
Like if you
you
tell me
know,
there's going to be a healer, I'm putting long legs on
for
that
sure.
healer and I'm going to be sprinting around throwing heals everywhere. Nobody's going to be able to catch me.
Hell yeah, this is exactly what I'm in it for. Like I want to see the wacky stuff. Like, but I'm like half playing here. I can jump out.
Yes, this I see you running around and
Ooh.
shooting stuff. What's the actual intent with that game mode? Is that the whole thing is just kind of a survival situation?
Yeah, so in this one, there's 7 rooms with progressively harder enemies, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have 3 types of enemies. We have like kind of your regulars, we have your elites, and then we have a boss. We have more types of enemies, but right now these are the 3 that we're focusing on.
Okay.
And as you go deeper into the rooms, you encounter more elites, and at the very end, you have a boss. Now, as you see here, there's difficulty, and oh, it won't let me go up because it's locked. If you can see my mouse, my cursor here, like there's a lock right here for level 2. So I have to beat difficulty 1 to get to 2,
Mm-hmm.
to get to 3, to get, and then I get larger and larger rewards, or I should say better and better rewards for, completing harder dungeons. And so right now it's kind of like the most base gameplay. And what we're looking at testing next is session engagement, session length, and probably very, very early retention. And we'll probably be running tournaments around the leaderboard and have all sorts of prizes that will likely somewhat skew the data, but you know what? This is kind of how we're going to be running live ops. This is how you do it in free to
Mhm.
play. So I think it simulates that kind of idea already because you always have a carrot dangling. And we're just trying to simulate that as best as we can without having to put in really large systems this early. Because again, you know, we're a small team. We got to walk before we run.
Yeah.
And we're trying to just get the biggest bang for our buck. Uh, Releasing a better version of this build with a number of, you know, new weapons. Actually, I should, like, if anybody has seen Rogue Nation, they probably just watched this and they're like, what the hell did I just see? That was a new level called Scrap West. It's more
Ooh.
Western. Yeah, exactly. Like, here's some alpha for you. Even Chonky here. I think yesterday we started showing, or maybe even this morning, we just showed like, hey, Chonky's like the next pet that you can get. So yeah, we got a lot of content coming out.
That's great. It sounds like you guys are kind of relying on more of the iterative development process rather than just blasting it out and saying, "Hey guys, here's the game, you know, which thoughts?"
For sure. You know, I think it's a bit presumptuous to think that you know what the player wants all the time. Like, I mean, there's some pretty counterintuitive things that through my career, everybody unanimously on the team thought for sure this is going to be what the players love, and it's absolutely what they hated. And then vice versa. So for us, we really need to be validating as often as possible, and that doesn't just go beyond, or that goes beyond like what our kind of typical, you know, Western development comfort zone is, where you're A/B testing around geos that kind of simulate the US. For us, we're pretty comfortable with the US. What we
Mm-hmm.
really need to understand is APAC, some of the Asian countries, make sure that South America is well understood, because we've just our career and experiences, like, you know, Europe, US, we understand it fairly well. We get a lot of feedback all the time. And so we understand that we got some blind spots. And this is one of the reasons why our elements and our art style looks this way. Is very early we started testing this out across the world in different geos to make sure that it was appealing when we go to other markets like Japan, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is notorious for having a very different art style, very different
Yep.
UI. And so, yeah, like I think this really just kind of tease up the point of, man, you got to start like getting content out there, understanding, testing, and iterating on it to really make sure that you're going in the right direction.
I just want to give you guys some praise for you know what you said about not exactly knowing what players want all the time, because unfortunately within the web 2, especially within the AAA industry, we do kind of get that a lot. Like you see a lot of player lashback and the developers will come back and be like, well, we did it for this reason, as if the players care why they did it. Clearly the players aren't happy with it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's for your good. What?
Not to like point fingers, but Ubisoft, like, yeah, like
EA.
notorious, right?
No,
Like,
remember EA when they said that single
EA
player
for
games
sure.
were dying? Oh my
This is,
god.
yeah. I worked at EA, so it's what a
They-
mammoth organization that like anything good or bad, you could point at them and just be like, EA.
Everybody's kind of got their faults. Let's be honest. I mean, you can even look at the you mentioned Diablo 4 earlier. Just don't go on the Diablo 4 Reddit. And if you love the game, stay away
Yeah,
from the Diablo 4 Reddit. That's all
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
say. A large portion of the player base is not happy, and it's because the developers made specific decisions they thought was for the betterment of the game, and they thought
yeah,
players would be okay with it, and they're simply
yeah.
not.
Yeah, and like, you know, to I guess they're Diablo purists, like, you know, the developers, like they really have
That's
this
me.
vision and they're not going to sway from it. And when people are talking about, but PoE does this, and it's like, hey, that's the
It's not
point. Like, you
PoE.
want to play PoE, go play PoE. Like, you're here to play Diablo, you know? So
The way I told people is because I am one of those Diablo purists. I've played every Diablo, including the mobile one. I do enjoy them a lot, but playing this one, it did not feel like a Diablo. So what I said on stream this weekend, I was playing a different game. Actually, no, I was playing Diablo. I think it would have been great as an actual MMO. Like if they had made it in the format of World of Warcraft, then I think the mob density would have been a non-issue. I think the inventory problems people are running into would have been a non-issue.
Oh
I
my
think the
God,
mount system would have been a lot better. But instead, it's almost like they wanted to go the MMO route, and then somewhere into the development process, they were like, "No, let's keep it more traditional. We're used to this.
yeah,
Let's use this." You know. So
yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I think it is a good game. I think that they definitely have room for improvement, though.
Agreed. Although,
From a purist
man,
standpoint. I'm
I love playing with a gamepad. I
true.
just like, man, oh man.
Controller support is big.
Yeah, massive for me. Actually, this is even our game. So I was just playing on my phone,
Mhm.
but we have controller support, which is
Yes.
like, yeah, this is honestly, I fucking love it. It's just like this is where I'm at right here. So I'm super excited when this hits PC.
No, I gotta get it now because the thing is, first off, mobile games that support controller, they're far and few in between. Usually you have to like buy like mobile ports, for example, like the Final
Mhm.
Fantasy series or something like that. Something that was originally designed with controller in mind, ported to mobile. And iPhone, I don't know if Android has this, but iPhone actually has native Bluetooth support for like PlayStation controllers and Xbox controllers. So
Oh damn.
yeah, so I'm kind of getting to that age where I've been on the computer for so long, my wrist is starting to act up. I actually had
Yes.
a huge problem this weekend where my fingers, there was some sort of pain in my fingers anytime I used the keyboard. So I ended
Yeah.
up having to move to my controller, and I was like, well, dang, now I can't play half my games, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, like this is yeah.
Accessibility.
I won't even say like the whole age thing. Like man, I remember my early 30s when, like yeah, like so I'm right-handed. So like
Mhm.
you're on a mouse like doing this all day, and by the end of the day you're like, man, my knuckle hurts for no reason other than like just being on this computer. The last thing I want to do is sit here and game, WASD like and clicking around. Gamepad's just at least a different like formation of my hand.
So you guys said it's going to be on iOS, Android, and PC. So I'm
Yep.
curious as to how you're going to be handling the Web3 side of things. And the reason I bring this up is, am I going to have to connect a wallet? Is it going to be like an account that I tie it to on the back end so that way I can like carry my progress across all of my devices? How's that all looking like or planned?
Yeah. So right now we're working with some partners to really nail down the architecture. We do want uh, to be able to support like, hey, go to any device. We know
Hmm.
who you are, especially like if you're wallet connected. Like, okay, we already know all the assets you have. Like, it's brought over. And so what's really big for us is that we're looking at being mobile first because of the conversion that we can have on the
Hmm.
widest net of users. I mean, I could really just spend the next 20 minutes going through like why we even picked this specific genre, this type of game, going back to 2020, 2021, and then moving forward through like, you know, the numbers, how it's growing, the different geos, where crypto is growing, the geos, the demographic, like all this stuff. But what we really want to do is make sure that we have something that is easy for players, whether they're Web3 blockchain natives or not, to come in, have a very seamless experience. You're just creating an account as you would on like a Supercell game or any other
Hmm.
game. You don't even know that we just created a wallet for you. You're
Perfect.
playing this game, and honestly, the only reason anyone needs to know that they're, even own the assets, if they like, you can be totally oblivious and not know until you're trying to recoup value for that,
Or
right? That's where
trade.
like, Yeah, trade, exactly. This is where like KYC comes into play, right? This is so ideally we have people that are to the point where the value proposition is absolutely clear. We didn't sell you on come make money, hey, own these things. You're interacting with the game in a way that is really interesting to you. And now these next steps don't seem so hard.
Yep.
Also, you're not writing down the 24 word seed phrase and all of this stuff. Like wallets and a lot of the blockchain tech, like everyone understands this, and abstraction is super important. Actually, I was just at ECC talking or listening to Vitalik talk about like what the future of account abstraction looks like and how important this is,
Okay.
because everybody understands, hey, you know what? Like my mom, she's not going to write down the 24 words. And if she does, she's going to lose them like in a week. And so we just need to make this easier. And if you somehow get locked out or need to, get back into your account, there's ways to do that. And so we've really been keeping an eye on all of the tools, all the third-party partners, and feel like there's a number of very high quality companies out there that are nailing this because they are coming with the user first mentality of,
Mhm.
man, I want to make this so everybody can use it. And anyone that's been in blockchain for more than like 3, 4, 5 years, my God, like you remember how terrible it used to be. Like
It still is
just
in some
it's
cases.
MetaMask, like, why are you still so bad? Like, why?
I recently started using the Brave browser and their built-in wallet that replaces MetaMask basically. I
Yeah,
love it. It tells me
really?
it tells me exactly what the transaction is going to do before I sign it. So like
Oh, that's
it
nice.
tells me you're going to lose this and gain this or whatever, right? Whereas
Oh,
MetaMask,
wow.
it's just like a
Okay.
raw data situation and you're like, what am I reading?
Yeah, like I have to go to like JSON editor, like
Yeah.
understand with. Uh,
But the reason I bring that up is because if you guys are doing it where it's tied on the back end and you're just like on my iPhone, for example, I just download the app and sign in. Have you guys considered the Switch platform?
we have consider, and you know what's interesting because we're on Unity. Unity ports to Switch are actually smooth AF. It's really again another great reason to start building on Android. Is it's just you get a lot of bang for your buck. The only issue with Switch is, of course, when you're looking at a go-to-market strategy and growth strategy,
Mhm.
it might not be the best place to get found. Their platform doesn't necessarily um, lend to organic traffic hitting
Mhm.
like really small new games. So it would be more on us to like really be like, oh, by the way, we're on Switch, go check it out. So this is something that we'll probably do down the line, but we really need to focus on mobile first, of course, PC, because this is where a lot
100%.
of, Web3 gamers are right now. And, just a lot of gamers are. But again, like priority mobile, like this is where
100%.
the billions of gamers are. I
No,
mean, the scale is crazy. People still don't understand it, I think.
I get it because first off, not everybody has a super big gaming PC. Like, and in
Yes.
this game doesn't look like it would really require one anyway. But I'm thinking on a more general level. So,
Yeah.
a lot of games that are coming out on mobile tend to have insane revenue generation because of the reach that they can get,
Yeah.
especially if you manage to land on the front page of the App Store. I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
I think that this is the right way to go for you guys. I was just bringing it up because there are games on mobile. Again, it comes down to the whole wrist situation, and as I get older, I can't hold my phone like this all day for long sessions. So I'll pick up my Switch, and there actually has been quite a few games I've found on mobile that I realized there was a Switch app, and I would go and download it over there and start playing over there. So I think it's a great transition period, but I agree with
Yeah.
you. I don't think it should be a focus right now. But the fact
Yeah.
you guys are thinking about it,
Oh, yeah, we'll get
that's
there.
promising.
We'll get there. Yeah, we have some pretty big, ecosystem visions
Hmm.
for Moonlit Games, right? Rogue Nation is our first game, but the way in which we're even developing it is somewhat of a no waste framework. We're making systems and features and tools that can be repurposed in other games. And we've already started testing this out. So imagine Rogue Nation, the game you just saw, as a third person shooter, as a trade TCG, right? Trading card
Hmm.
game, as a team battler. We've actually already created some of these as demos. So we're creating a toolbox that allows us to create new game content very, very rapidly. And what that means is anyone that's already in our ecosystem, uh, through whatever they're owning inside of our game, we will have direct tie-ins. So everyone throws around the word interoperability and they think Call of Duty going to Fortnite.
No,
Yeah, yeah. Good luck with that ever happening. Like
too
from a
much
technology
licensing.
standpoint, exactly. Technology's tough, and then all of a sudden you got like two big boys like talking legal. Like it's not gonna work unless Microsoft buys everybody.
Well, interoperability makes sense within the larger framework, but people need to understand you're not going to give up your assets to the competition. That makes no sense from a
Yeah,
business standpoint. It's just not feasible. Now, will there be some games that decide to work together? Yes, probably. I've seen it happen already.
for sure.
But interoperability is not me being able to take, like, the example I always give is it's not me being able to take my dragon mount from World of Warcraft into Grand Theft Auto. That's just not feasible. The aesthetics wouldn't line up, the textures and stuff would look out of place, and we've already seen that happen with Fortnite with some of their cartoon skins. It just looks out of place. But that's a whole their game's
Yeah.
silly. It's supposed to be that way. Whatever.
I love how silly it is though. It's like the cell
Exactly.
shading is like really goofy.
But interoperability to me is Grand Theft Auto being able to look at the blockchain, verify that I own that World of Warcraft mount, and instead of transferring it over, they say, hey, you own that mount. In our game, you can have this dragon themed car skin,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
It's just a
Yeah,
public verification you own something, and games can choose to utilize it or not to incentivize you into their ecosystem. But you're not going to
exactly.
see fully shared ecosystems.
In well, I think though within a company's
Yeah, internally.
ecosystem and like game portfolio, I think it is extremely powerful
Mm-hmm.
and something
Blizzard,
that
Riot.
yeah, no, so exactly. You're already using exactly like two great things where it's like, man, you're already taking the IP and just creating like, rubber stamped games like, okay, Valorant, cool, like TF2 just with, like kind of league-ish mechanics. And well, I don't think they took any of the lore, but like all of the other games is straight up league lore,
Mm-hmm.
character for character, taking them in there. And why not have some little base incentive to get your user base to try out these different games and really find something that they might want to heavily engage in? All you're doing is you're creating a buffet and allowing people to eat what they want. And you're just getting more and more people into the ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
creating more value with the content that you're creating. And then, you can, this is getting like super far fetched, but almost like Bandersnatch, like Netflix, where imagine, as we were talking about the emergence of your character and the way that you can build it out, imagine
Mm-hmm.
you create like one of these extremely powerful characters in this game ecosystem. Now you can go to Netflix, verify like, hey, this is mine, have it be a part of this animated show, right? I think we're not that far away from this stuff. Like we ourselves have already been creating, you know, quite a few variations of content, whether it be, comic book panels. If you go look at our trailer, which is on YouTube, this is all in-game assets. Makita, the creative director, made this in an afternoon, like leveraging Blender and AI, and just was like, "Help me do this." I think for someone that does not do this as a living, creating 3D asset trailers, f- for really awesome. Like, so I think that we're not that far away from actually being able to repurpose. Like, hey, this is just stash 3D character. Pull your character into here, replaced, put your element there, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a trailer that is tailored to you.
That is
So
actually really neat.
yeah, I think there's tons of like really cool applications.
And it sounds like you guys are kind of taking the Blizzard route. And for those that may not understand what I mean by that, the best example recently is Diablo 4. I purchased the Ultimate Edition of Diablo 4, and because I pre-ordered it and bought the big boy version, I got like a mount and a pet and all these other goodies in World of Warcraft. So, as somebody who's a big World of Warcraft player, even though I might not be the biggest fan of Diablo 4, I was incentivized to purchase it because of the assets and stuff that I got to use outside of that game. So
Yeah.
I think you guys are definitely onto something with that 100%. And it's similar with Riot, except Riot, they make you repurchase everything.
Yeah, I hate Riot for this. I have multiple accounts. When I moved from North America to Europe, start over. It's just like,
You
all
can
right.
actually transfer your region now. I don't know if you knew they did that, but
yeah.
I ran into that same boat.
But then I can't play with my North American friends.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, like it's
transfer again.
I know exactly. Like this is
No, I ran into that same boat. I got deployed in 2013. I was over in Kuwait, and I was like, crap. I could either deal with incredibly large latency, or I could start a new account. So I started a new account, of course, and it's like, my characters and my skins and my ward skins, everything's gone. No.
There's still every once in a while I'll play. I'll just like jump into an ARAM game, and like a character will come up, and I'll just be like, I have that skin, like to like. Man, this is like 10 years ago when I moved, so it's just like,
nah.
damn you, Riot.
But I did.
Even with,
go.
I was gonna say, even with Wild Rift, and like you can connect the accounts, and then it's just like,
oh yeah,
cool. We know you have this is your account, but we're not giving you skins.
Oh, I didn't get skins. They didn't even give me my characters. Like I have to rebuy and re-earn all of my characters, and they're the same freaking characters on the same account.
It's maniacal is what it is.
Well, it also comes back to that interoperability thing. That's kind of more what I was referencing. But like if I unlock, there is a Valorant character that they pulled and put in League of Legends, and if I unlock it in Valorant, I still have to buy it or unlock it in League of Legends. There's kind of a missed opportunity there. But from a business and monetization standpoint, I get it. They want to make money. They want to keep the lights on, whatever. But as a player, as the consumer, I'm like, you guys could have done better.
But I'd be really interested on that point to like, you know, perform an A/B test and see what actually performs better in the long term. Because when you start measuring LTVs, like it's not like, hey, I'm going to measure 1 week or 30 days. Like you generally get proxies, and so any type of new event or shift that you have in a player base going to another game, you can have some like really outsized gains or losses. Like it can be, you know, detrimental, cannibalize your revenues, but it's really worth it to understand how, you know, your entire player base is optimized, especially, you know, Riot. Like you have a massive user base, and really a rich portfolio. Like you could do a lot of things to figure out what is optimal there.
Well,
without having to just do the quick money grabs.
Look, I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to sit here and say whatever they're doing is working because I've spent money in all their games.
I know.
I've rebought the same character like 3 times across their League of Legends ecosystem. You know, it is what it is. But I feel like that's kind of also part of the problem is players like me that are letting them, like we're supporting these practices. So I can't really be mad at them because it's working.
Exactly. But I think like long term, it's unsustainable business practices. I think in 10 years, we'll look back and be like, boy, that was pretty dumb. You know, like I was a sucker. You're like, I'm doing the same thing, right? I work in the business. I understand the psychological biases they're using, and it's you know, it's still I still purchase. But I think blockchain is going to change a lot of that in the value perception of what you're purchasing and what that represents in game and out of game, at least in the long term. Like right now, we just need to get people to accept it.
Exactly. But there is something you mentioned I'm not sure if anybody caught, so I'm going to bring it up. You said this is your first game, so clearly you guys want to build more, correct?
Oh yeah, we already have an idea of a couple more that would be fast follows to Rogue Nation.
And are they also going to be mobile first?
Yeah. It's really everything that we're doing here is trying to prove out the development and approach towards distribution.
Mhm.
As I was saying before, like even understanding the different geos or territories that we can go in for the different genres, because right now we're kind of focusing on RPG as a genre because it's very large. There's 13 subgenres that fall underneath that.
Oh, wow.
And we see a lot of synergies between what we're trying to do as a company, the acceptance of blockchain, and then also, like we're trying to run a business. Like we feel like we understand uh, this genre very well and and how to essentially monetize it without like really kind of like, sticking it to people. And we think just like long-term incentives are better understood when there's deeper meta. And this is something that I think blockchain is just really, really good for.
So you're building an ecosystem. Your long-term goal is multiple games that all have shared assets.
Yeah, essentially. And but you said before is like spot on. It doesn't necessarily have to be this sword is exactly
Hmm.
this sword in the other game, but there is some representational value of that sword inside the game. Like I, I usually use racing as a great example, and you already said like a car skin,
Yeah.
right? Which the British call like liveries, but as I never understood it. But yeah, so be pretty hard to all of a sudden have like, what are you racing a sword? Like rev up with a sword, like it doesn't make sense. But there's other ways that we can integrate that. And you know what? This integration with the racing game might be pretty loose, but when you take this into the trading card game, there could be a card that is specifically this sword and it does, swipe, like you get to clear out, two enemies on the other person's side, like whatever, right? Like I think that there's just a different way in which you can integrate these things. But if you start with that idea in mind, how can we fully integrate different aspects of different games? This is where you're just going to get just a higher level of integration. And this is where it becomes more possible. So we're really trying to just think, what does 5 years look like? What does 10
Hmm.
years look like in the future? And how do we get to where the puck is going? Because we see a lot of people chasing, but it's like, okay, hold on. Like, if we start thinking about these things now, in 5 years, we can have this. In 10 years, when everyone's accepted blockchain, and this is the thing, like, people will really appreciate having an ecosystem that has interactions between different types of games. And so now, again, you get to show up and it's like the premium buffet.
So today is July 24th. If I wanted to play the game today, what does that look like?
Today, you can play it on the Google Play Store, but we are gating that version to NFT owners. Very soon, very, very soon, we will have a new version. I won't say the name. So we're naming our versions off of moons. We're moonlit, go
Hmm.
figure. Um, but this will be screw it. It'll be in August at some point. We're getting ready for Gamescom. Like this is we really want to have something on iOS, Google
Hmm.
Play, maybe hopefully PC, but that would be a very fast follow if we don't have it then. Um, and so like the build that you just saw, except without all the bugs, and then even more content. This is what you'll have access to even without an NFT. We're allowing guest access. We'll be running tournaments, and we might have some new NFTs for people to get their hands on.
And where can the people follow you for more information?
So if you want to follow us, Twitter, Moonlit_Games. You can always hop into our Discord, Moonlit Games. You can follow me on Twitter. I, am trying to be more active when I'm not, shaking hands and kissing babies and, talking to other founders and investors because we're fundraising at the moment. So it like takes a lot of time. At PS McGrath. So pretty basic. I generally respond, love chatting with people, and everyone on the team is pretty active in Discord. So whenever people come in, ask questions, like it's, you get answered.
That's great. You love to see responsive teams. People hate jumping into Discord, asking a question, having to wait a week to get an answer. So really, really good on you guys for that level of community support. Is there anything else that you would like people to know, either about Rogue Nation or about the studio, before we start to wrap things up?
Anything else, man? I feel like I've
You
said
gave
a
us
lot.
plenty of alpha. I mean, we see the
what
new update
more
that's
do you
coming.
want from me?
Well, like if you got any events coming up, if you're going to be at any of the like in-person events, you mentioned, what was it, ECC? No, Gamescom.
Gamescom. We will be at Gamescom. Thinking about Token 2049. This would be pretty cool.
So no Rare Evo?
No,
Dang.
it's like, I mean, so I just spent a couple of days at ECC coming back to the team. It's like, I feel like I've been gone for a month, it's just like the amount to catch up on it's insane. But yeah, I mean, we're in Berlin. We're always actually hitting up a lot of the Berlin events. It's actually really good blockchain space, but also startup for either mobile or Web3 games. So it's really, really cool atmosphere here. If you're in town, hit me up. Honestly, like I've had people from Twitter just hit me up, just take them out to dinner, show them around. Like, let's go.
Nah, that's great. I was really hoping you guys were going to be Rare, though, because that's probably the only one I'm going to make the rest of the year. But we'll have to sync up sometime next year. Wait, what about ETH Denver next year?
Oh, maybe. This might be like.
I met so many projects at ETH Denver. All right. Well, if you got nothing else, we can go ahead and start a little outro. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would say is thanks everybody for listening. Like, oh yeah, you can go check out our Genesis elements. I have a feeling that these things are going to be very rare and valuable sometime if you're like the speculator, but also in game you can use them. There's an attack bonus they give, which first of all, we're not going to do very many more attack bonuses. So it's like, man, they're super rare to get this because it's actually a pretty crazy bonus. You can, of course, check us out on OpenSea, Magic Eden. Other than that, I know the team's probably going to be listening to this at some point. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all your hard work. You're the best.
Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us today, giving us all the alpha, coming to Rogue Nation. I'm excited for the game. I just need the iOS release. My computers,
it's coming. It's coming.
I'm running Windows 11 on all my computers, and the emulators don't like me.
I know. This is. We keep getting asked this when we put it out on Google Play. When iOS, when emulators, it's just like, whoa, we're just trying to get the build to like work.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be a wrap, folks. Another awesome episode of the Block Sauce is coming to a close. But before we say farewell, I want to give another huge thank you to Patrick for taking time out of his day to join us and showcase his game today. We also couldn't have done it without you, our amazing viewers and supporters. Your engagement and passion fuel our drive to bring you the hottest topics and the thought-provoking conversations week after week. Remember, the sauce never stops flowing. Stay connected with us on social media, share your thoughts, and suggest future topics or maybe even future game projects that maybe we should reach out to, because your voice matters too. That's going to be it for today. Thanks, and join us next time for another great episode of the Block Sauce, where we will keep the gaming flame alive and the discussion sizzling. Stay saucy and keep gaming in the exciting realm of Web3. Have a good one.